Hello everyone, and welcome back to History Channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to explore a fascinating and often overlooked chapter in European history, the Iberian Union, for 60 years. From 1580 to 1640, the two great seafaring nations of Portugal and Spain were united under a single crown. How did this happen? What was it like? And how did it all end? Let's dive in and find out. Our story begins in the late 16th century. Portugal was at the height of its power, a global empire with vast territories in Brazil, Africa, and Asia. But a tragedy would soon change everything. In 1578, the young and idealistic King Sebastian of Portugal launched a crusade in Morocco. The result was the disastrous Battle of Alcázar-Quibir, where the king was killed, leaving no direct heir to the throne. This created a massive succession crisis. Several claimants emerged, but the most powerful was King Philip II of Spain. Philip had a strong claim through his mother, Isabella of Portugal, and he also had something the others didn't: the might of the Spanish army. After a brief military campaign, Philip II of Spain was crowned Philip I of Portugal in 1581, officially beginning what we now call the Iberian Union. Initially, Philip promised to respect Portugal's autonomy. He pledged that Portugal would keep its own laws, currency, government, and empire. The deal was essentially a personal union, meaning the two countries shared a monarch but remained separate kingdoms. For a while, this arrangement seemed to work. The combined might of the Spanish and Portuguese empires created a global superpower, an empire on which the sun truly never set. However, things weren't as rosy as they appeared. Being tied to Spain meant that Portugal was dragged into Spain's conflicts. The most notable of these was the long and costly war against the Dutch Republic. The Dutch, who were once trading partners with Portugal, now became enemies. They began attacking Portuguese colonies and trade routes, particularly in Brazil and Asia. The Portuguese, who felt their empire was being dismantled to serve Spanish interests, grew increasingly resentful. The Union also brought significant economic strain. Spain was often at war and needed money to fund its armies. A lot of that financial burden fell on Portugal. Taxes were raised, and Portuguese wealth was often diverted to Madrid. The Portuguese nobility and merchant classes, who had once enjoyed immense prestige and profit from their own empire, felt their influence and fortunes dwindling. They started to see the Union not as a partnership, but as a Spanish occupation. As Philip II's successors, Philip III and Philip IV, took the throne, the situation worsened. They lacked the political skill of Philip II and pursued a policy of centralization, further eroding Portuguese autonomy. The breaking point came during the reign of Philip IV and his influential chief minister, the Count Duke of Olivares. Olivares was determined to make all parts of the Spanish monarchy contribute more directly to the crown's military and financial needs. This meant more taxes and more Portuguese soldiers being sent to fight in Spain's wars, like the 30 Years' War. For the Portuguese, this was the last straw. The feeling was that Portugal was being bled dry to prop up a declining Spanish empire. Discontent simmered across all levels of society. From the common people, burdened by taxes, to the nobles who had lost their power and privilege. A secret plot began to form among a group of Portuguese nobles known as the 40 Conspirators. Their plan was bold and incredibly risky. On December 1st, 1640, while Spain was heavily distracted by a major revolt in Catalonia, the conspirators stormed the royal palace in Lisbon. They found the Duchess of Mantua, who was Philip IV's representative in Portugal, and declared her rule was over. They proclaimed the Duke of Braganza, the most powerful noble in Portugal, as the new king, King John IV. This act of rebellion marked the beginning of the Portuguese Restoration War. It was a long and grueling conflict that lasted for 28 years. Portugal, despite being smaller, was fighting on home ground with a determined spirit. They also managed to secure crucial support from Spain's enemies, particularly France and England. The war drained Spain's already depleted resources, and finally, in 1668, Spain officially recognized Portugal's independence with the Treaty of Lisbon. The Iberian Union was over. So, what was the legacy of these 60 years? For Portugal, the Union is often seen as a dark period in its history, a time of foreign domination and national decline. The attacks on its empire during this time, especially by the Dutch, had a lasting impact. Portugal lost significant territories in Asia and struggled to maintain its hold on Brazil. The Union accelerated the decline of its once mighty Eastern Empire. However, it's not a completely one-sided story. Despite the political separation, the cultural exchange between Portugal and Spain continued. For centuries, the two nations on the Iberian Peninsula have shared a deeply intertwined history, influencing each other's language, art, music, and cuisine. This period, while politically tumultuous, was no exception. Artists and intellectuals moved between Lisbon and Madrid, creating a rich cultural dialogue that transcended political borders. And what about today? The relationship between Portugal and Spain has come a long way since the 17th century. They are now close partners, both members of the European Union and NATO. Their economies are deeply integrated, and millions of tourists cross the border each year. The shared history, including the difficult period of the Iberian Union, has shaped a unique and resilient bond. They are two distinct nations, fiercely proud of their own identities, but forever linked by geography and a complex, shared past. The story of the Iberian Union serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly fortunes can change for nations and empires. It's a tale of ambition, tragedy, and the enduring power of national identity. It shows how a union forged by dynastic ambition ultimately failed because it could overcome the deep-seated desire of a people to rule themselves. Thank you so much for joining me on this historical journey today. It's a complex piece of history, and I hope this gave you a clearer picture of what happened. Kay, what are your thoughts on the Iberian Union? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into history. We'll see you in the next one.